So hello and welcome. Today we have the pleasure to speak with Agustina from Arts Project and Maya Chozas. Welcome, guys. It's such a pleasure having you here. I would love to hear where the two of you are right now. And so please, if you could introduce yourselves and tell us where you are.
Hi, my name is Agustina Mistreda. I'm a creative director for Ether Arts Project. I'm from Argentina. I'm a visual artist, I'm a curator and a cultural manager, and I'm now in Aspen, Colorado.
Great.
Yeah.
Maya.
I'm Maya Chozas. Right now I am in Patagonia, San Martín de los Andes in Argentina. I'm a visual artist, obviously. I grew up in Buenos Aires. Well, that's kind of where I am right now.
Perfect. So, Agustina, my first question will be for you. I would love to hear what Ether Arts Project is and what motivated you to start it.
So Ether Arts Project is an international cultural organization that links the works of artists, curators in exhibition spaces all around the world. We are based in Argentina. We operate in Argentina, and our main goal is focused towards environmental art. So we connect different artists and different projects all around the world based with the main core around nature. This inspiration comes very dearly to me and very close to my heart because I grew up in Patagonia, surrounded by nature, and I've always was fascinated by it, being outdoors and enjoying nature. So when I graduated in my degree as a curator and cultural manager, I wanted to do a project that would help bring people closer together from different parts of the world. And I realized that what was most urgent for me was to think about this idea of we only have one place to live in this time. So in the beginning, it was mostly artists who work with nature, and then it sort of transformed into more focused on specifically environmental art, because I realized that that's kind of the direction in which the world is heading, and it was for me the most urgent topic, and that's where the main focus of the project is going to these days. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. So could you tell us how did you and Maya meet, and what was it that drew you to her work?
Maya and I have friends in common from our teenage years, and we met in Bariloche. That's my hometown. And when I started this project, Maya had done an album cover for good dear friends of mine. She designed the artwork for that album cover. And when I launched the project, I felt very drawn to her work. She always had a very trademark style, and it's a particular combination of nature and sort of human interaction in a way. So I felt really drawn to her work, and that's when we first started connecting. And her project is the first project that I did as a curator. Her first solo show was the first project that I curated. And then from then on, this was in 2016, from then on we became friends and been more permanent collaborators, yeah.
No, sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Maya, I would love to hear from you now a little bit about your background and who is Maya Chozas as an artist.
So I grew up in a family of artists. My grandmother is an artist. Also my stepdad, in a way that he's like a kind of dad for me. So that has been always there. I started going to painting and drawing sculpture workshops since I was a child and a teenager. Then I studied visual arts in university in Argentina. And I finished a couple of years ago, and I've been doing these different series. One of my first shows was with Ether, what Agustina said, the skin, la piel de la tierra, it would be in Spanish, the earth. Yeah.
Translator, please.
You know, I think we translated it something like the Earth's skin,
Oh, like
and like,
piel
yeah,
de la
yeah,
tierra.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like this concept of something of the Earth that was thin and covering it, and in
Uh-huh.
different like layers, basically.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's done with a lot of photographs from Patagonia, actually, and that's, bueno, all of them like turn to abstraction. They all have like a lot of influences from maybe German Romanticism. That's kind of.
Mm-hmm.
No, we love your work. It's stunning, and when you learn about what is behind it, it's even more beautiful. But can you develop a little bit more, maybe, about nature as your inspiration? What does it mean for you as a person and as an artist?
Right. So for me, what intrigues me about nature, it has to do a lot of what Agustina is working on, ether. I feel like we are like now more than ever, the crisis is so evident, and I feel like we are like, have to adapt our relationship with nature. Like human beings, in a way, feel like they have the right to control everything. So what I like is like representing this nature that it's also like abstract and breaks and remind us like that we are really only one little part of the cosmos in a way. And in my works, I feel I don't know, a lot of that comes I don't know, it has to do from the places where I travel and the experiences I have. So it's also like a metaphoric way of representing nature. I don't know if Agustina agrees with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the way in which you manage to take inspiration from the shapes and the colors in nature, I feel like your work in a way sort of it's a homage to nature. Is this the correct word? Homage? It's like it brings, you know, it's like brings all the best in it. And also what I like about it is that it tackles the subject of environmental art, but it's not dramatic, you know, it's not negative, because sometimes you see, you know, there's a part of it that is really sad and it's really hard to accept, you know. For example, when you see photos of the glaciers disappearing, you know, it can be really sad. I feel like your work has an added value of it being really positive and like taking the best of it, and as you said, like inspired by German Romanticism and this way of being in awe with nature and loving everything around it. I think that's the angle that you have in connection with nature, and I think that's very valuable.
Yes, we love this approach as well, because we think that if you're only critical about everything that is happening, of course you need to bring awareness, but you need to make people live the experience of interacting with that work of art with optimism. Like, you know, you can leave people depressed about it. So we couldn't agree more with the way that you guys approach it, or that Maya approaches it. Now, like, it could be for you, Agustina, or Maya. I would love to hear more about what you mentioned before in terms of the interaction of nature and humans, like, and in your opinion, how does that translate in Maya's work?
Interesting. I think that partly what she just said kind of tackles it, like we are a part of nature, and I feel like in recent years, there's been a tendency to feel that humans are causing such a massive level of destruction that creates like two polarized options. It's like humans versus nature. And we've come to realize, you know, in recent, through the work of different artists that we have in our project, that it's really not so much like that we are a part of the same nature that we are attacking. So understanding that and being a part of that, I think that shifts the perspective from two polarized things that are going against each other to being all one in the same mechanism. So that's when your role begins to change, because you know that whatever thing you do, be it very little or be it huge, you have an impact in the whole system because you are a part of that system. So I think that's very like, that's a way in which I've come personally to understand it. And I feel that in Maya's work that also reflects sometimes she incorporates the human figure, sometimes she doesn't, but in a way it's always present in the whole system. And she said it, the universe as well, like she was saying before, right, Maya? What do you think?
Yes, totally. I agree with that. And also, in a way, what I feel is like, that is my intention, but I really like when people see my works and they make like new interpretations of this nature. That is great because it's not all given. I really like to open doors and not to, that's why sometimes talking about the work, I feel like it, I don't know, closes in a way, I say the way of how you read or how you interpret. But yes, in a way it's like similar to that concept of like admiring nature, but also having this respect. That's why when I make like collages, I like to play with scales. So maybe I put like the human being is super little and with the mountains, and I don't know. I think with that also.
That's my next question. Actually, your works are undeniably beautiful, and we love the concept behind it. But we would love to understand, how do you create them? You know, I know you work with painting, photography, collage, digital work, and maybe if you want to pick one work to help us navigate it through, like, and understand how is your creative process and your technique too.
Totally. You want me to talk about one work only or in general?
No, that was just a suggestion. If you want to choose one work, so you can help us see how your creative process or your technique is. But if you want to talk about that in general, it's up to you as well. We have Manuela. She could help us getting an image if you'd like.
Yes. So what I usually do, I make the composition with a lot of images. I use parts of my drawings, parts of photographs that I take, also images from another sources. Also photographs of parts of my paintings. And what I do is like I make the compositions, sometimes I cut like a collage, and then I take a photo of that composition and I print it. And then again, I intervene on that, I paint on top. So it's like in a way, like a long process and maybe infinite of cutting and photographing again and drawing on top.
How do you know when you're done? Is it
I don't know.
Or is it
I'm never sure, but
I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Taking a distance and waiting a couple of days. I usually also work like with like thinking of a series or a theme, and that helps me a lot. I work with a lot of works at a time, so that every work makes sense, combines and makes sense like a whole series.
I think that from what I've seen you work, we shared a studio for some time as artists, and I feel like her approach to work is pretty intuitive. I mean, there's all this background, you know, formal background, and her being in a family of artists and all of that, but there's a really raw kind of intuitive element that I feel it doesn't have many words to explain. But yeah, as a process, as you said, I feel it involves steps and layers and going back and forth, and also a combination of languages, right? Because you go from the digital to the manual, back to the digital, back to the manual. So that sort of interaction between what we would call, you know, more organic things that you can touch from the natural world, like cotton paper or the translucent paper. We call it, in Spanish, we call it papel vegetal. We always have a problem with this word. It's velum.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think velum, they call it. It's like natural, you know, it's like natural, it comes from natural fibers. And then going back to the computer and the, digitally generated images. And you also use a lot of open source images from like data banks. So like all of that combination between the digital and and the natural, I think it's really also present in your work and as a part of the process too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, having like consideration this of the open source, what happened to me when I was studying art was that I felt like everything was done. So at the beginning it was a bit like frustrating. So I like thinking of art like in a way like we all now like make like new interpretations and the works are like more open. So that's what like a collage and photo montage gives you, like the possibility of exploring and saying things in a new way. But I am not so interested in thinking that my works are like unique, that I'm creating something totally new. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does for sure. I think just developing a little bit more on the idea of bringing two worlds together. How do you guys see the combination of online and offline? And I think now with COVID, we're all forced more into the online. I mean, we've been online forever, but like we've seen the art world transitioning from offline to online more. And how do you think this affected your work?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I feel we were wanting to jump on the digital online boat for quite some time. So the pandemic sort of gave us the little push that we needed to jump on different online platforms. We're working with a French online platform that's really helpful as well. We started working with you, and we felt like interesting ways of connecting beyond our natural reach is what the online possibilities give you. Know, this idea of connecting through a hashtag or through a website with someone from a whole other area of the world. I think it's very interesting, and it's also part of how the world is developing. So we took the opportunity as an organization. We took the opportunity of expanding our horizons through the digital realm. But yeah, we totally miss the in-person interactions, and yeah, we're hoping that. I mean, we miss going to art fairs and being present and hugging people. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. This for a long time has been all of the human interaction that we got, seeing like our friends' faces through the camera. Yeah, we hope for the same. Yes, it's very interesting, and I would love to hear more about how did you see people's perception, or how did people receive the work of like two Latin American women internationally, like if you can say, you know, because I think like we share a little bit of the same experience in bringing our company from Brazil to the US and now the world. And I would love to hear from you, Agustina, from a more like business perspective, and maybe Maya from a more creative perspective.
I think that contrary to other people's experiences, I feel like in our case, it has provided more attention. So people are curious about where we are and where we're from. The model that we have as an organization is pretty off of regular model. We're not a gallery. We don't operate like a business. We're a nonprofit, and we have like a totally different like perspective from it. So I feel like that has been positive in the sense of getting people's attention here and also in Europe as well. We've been in Spain for some time and had made connections there and did projects there. I feel like in our particular experience has been beneficial in this case, but it's interesting to see how the whole trend right now is to give more visibility to women, to minorities, to people from different countries, from different backgrounds. So I think that there's this whole social movement that's associated to that is slowly beginning to shift the way in which the perception is around the art world, which has always been white male dominated. And I feel like it's slowly beginning to change, and we are slowly beginning to see some of the results of these changes in our generation.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yes. We still fight for it, but
yeah, still the very beginning, but we're getting there.
But yesterday I was in a meeting in a gallery, actually a very old school blue chip gallery, and they were telling me that one of the head curators of the SF MoMA was just, and he's a white man, but he's very liberal. He's gay. He's, you know, he should be also a minority in many ways. But he made a joke during a curatorial meeting, saying that, you know, right now the trend is to collect women, but, you know, the white male artists are still going to be there. And he was sent away. He was fired after, I don't know, 20, 30 years at SF MoMA. So I feel like we're finding our way to some kind of balance as well, like any major social justice movement.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're missing a bit of humor in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, sorry, Maya. Can you going back to the like original idea, like how do you see the difference in between the audience, the general audience's perception of your work back home and globally?
So for me, I think this has opened like a lot of, so give me a lot of opportunities. I have been not interacting so much, maybe because of my position. I feel like maybe Ether is the part that communicates more with the people abroad. But for me, it's great for example, in the new series that I'm making in a collaboration with a friend, the one of Yerba Mate, that it talks about, how do you say pueblos originarios, like native?
Native communities or originary peoples.
Right. For me to talk about those things and people from another places like Europe get interested in that, and just because of seeing the images, then they get to know the story. For me, that is super important. An opportunity to have a little place to talk, how to express that.
No, absolutely. And do you think that like the way that people received your work back home changed after you had a more international exposure?
I'm not sure. I'm a bit shy, and I don't know if I am so like paying attention to that. I'm like more focusing on putting my energy in continue like creating and learning. I am not so sure how they respond on other people. Of course, the people that cares about me were like super exciting with all of this, but that's because like, I don't know, I feel like a love gesture. I don't know how it repercutes, or how do you say, with the other people. I don't know.
I think it generally has a little bit of impact. I mean, maybe you don't see it, so now it's also kind of recent, but I feel like when artists make a little buzz outside of their home, and they come back and people tend to pay different kind of attention to them for different reasons. Not necessarily like it's the, better, or not necessarily better, but yes, that at least they pay more attention. And I feel like what's more valuable for me in helping being the connector between artists and different projects is that it gives, more opportunities for you to think about your work outside the box, to think about what you can do with it. And I feel it opens a more limitless potential that I see that you and every artist on Ether have, and I'm happy to support.
No, that's great. Guys, now we're approaching the end, unfortunately, and I would love to hear maybe just like, I imagine you might have like a billion projects ahead of you, but if you could mention one thing that you're looking forward to in the new year, and that question is for the two of you.
So now I'm working, like since the pandemic started, I've been working in all collaboratory works. I'm not working alone. And now I'm want to work with a friend that she's been doing like bioplastics and painting with natural pigments. And we're working with all our work that has to do with our skin, it has to do with that, but it's not the name because it's sometimes it's confusing because of the other series that I made with Ether. But it's more like it has to do with this relationship with nature, and she has like a thing in her skin since she was a little, that she has like the little edges, and I have the same. So we were trying to, it's still in process, but we're making like these images that are kinds of collages mixed with bioplastic, more like a installation. And well, it's in process. I don't know.
Sounds very, very, very interesting. We would love to see that when it's ready, or whenever you want to show us.
I think what I'm mostly looking forward is basically making the project grow as an organization, bringing in new artists, bringing in new projects. I can't say really much, but we're working on a few outdoor sculpture projects for installations in different parts in Argentina, in Europe. So I mean, public art for me, and the public aspect of art for me is very interesting. It's something that I want to develop a lot. So that's kind of like what gets me most excited, just make the organization grow and grow our outreach to make bigger projects.
Amazing. So now I would love to open for our guests to share any thoughts or questions that you might have. Craig, I imagine you wanted to ask something, so please.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for letting me crash the party today. I haven't seen you and Manuel for a while, but I'm back.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I have a kind of an open question to either of the guests today. That kind of revolves around their internal motivation and what, you know, their creative energy that goes into actually creating their artistic pieces. And at what point does that change, or does your motivation change to the audience that's going to be able to see your work and appreciate your work and the creations you've made? And I guess there's a follow-on question to that, but I'll stop at that just to try to understand that from your perspective. You know, you both have the benefit of having started in nature. At least you lived down in nature. And I'm just curious of how you make that transition from what self-motivates you to that motivation to share this with others.
Mm-hmm. I think that in my experience as an artist, I feel as I work photography-based media, I tend to register everything that surrounds me, most especially when I'm in nature. Before I could name myself as an artist, I had a 10-year process that I didn't consider myself an artist, that I didn't work in anything, that I didn't make any shows, that I didn't publish anything. So in my experience, it took me a really long time to process what I was doing and to understand why I was doing it. And after I came to realize that I felt like a burden and that it was kind of heavy on my shoulders, that I wasn't owning that part of myself, I realized that I needed to organize my production into themes and series, and did a solo show because of that, because I felt like there was a lot of things that I was doing, and if I wasn't sharing them, then it was a little selfish. You know, it was like something that I was doing only for myself, but it had a potential of communicating something. So that's when I decided that I wanted to show it to the world, but it was a very painful process.
Took time. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of time and really painful, but now I'm glad that I'm on the other side and I can say it and be at peace with it.
Okay. We're happy.
Mayu?
It's always like a painful process, right? It's like you have no option of doing it. It's like, let's see, when I started, like, well, just like I was, maybe like 10 years ago, it's difficult. Thinking about what I was said is when you realize that you are an artist, I don't know, that's like so open and difficult. But for me, the thing of the relationship with nature and the motors that helped me create and everything. It's like, I feel it's the things that you live every day in a way, I don't know, part of, you have to communicate, and I certainly can't do it with words. So it's like a way of saying everything that you feel. I don't know. Let's see. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm.
No,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't want to hog the phone or the camera here, but the follow-on question then is, and really it's how I first got to know Renata and Manuela is they're democratizing art in the sense of making it available to others, like me. I mean, I got to admit, I had to go to galleries and and I see artwork in a lot of the buildings and a lot of the companies that I've worked with. But I'm not a big collector yet. But in terms of democratizing art, it seems to me, and I work with startups now, just to let you know, that's how I got to know them. It seems to me that you have a great opportunity, because the creative works you're doing in Argentina would not normally get viewed, I may be wrong on this, across the United States. But if you use some of the, not just the platforms, but some of the media that is available now, I'm thinking mostly, and I was looking at the artwork behind you there. I mean, that could be wearable art. I mean, that could be on scarves or shirts or shoes or hundreds of different things. And one of the things that I enjoy is being able to view art in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different settings. And that's why I asked about what the motivation is, because if your motivation is internal and you love your art, you don't want to part with the art in some ways, you've created it. You want to hang it on your own wall. That's one motivation. I understand it. But if it's to get it out there, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about commercializing the artwork.
No, for me, it's super important. So it doesn't make sense if I have it only in my house. In a way, like the work finishes when the audience is looking at it and reinterprets and everything. And for me, it's like a huge opportunity to show my works abroad and not only in Argentina, because of a lot of facts.
I think that it also has to do, what Craig just said, has to do with this, like, kind of in a way old-fashioned line of distinguishing between high art and low art. I think that like today the lines are being like really blurred and everything is intermixed, and art has filtered its way through so many different industries in so many different ways, that I think that it really depends on the artist. Some artists are really against having their artwork in a t-shirt, and I mean, if you go to other artists' examples, it's like they commercialize their outlets to the extremes. I feel it's really personal, but it's also part of this contemporary world or postmodern world where everything sort of mixed with each other and things like definitely overlay. There's tons of opportunities for artists to show in many different settings as the one that Alpha provides. But yeah, there's like this kind of confusion between what is like high and low. And I think that today it really depends on the artist. Me knowing Maya, I'm pretty sure that she doesn't make that distinction very much. She also makes, for example, we said it at the very beginning, but she did album cover art for bands, and that's something that she really loves doing. And it's a different kind of industry. It's like a little square that you get, or it's in a screen, or it's in the actual vinyl record. So it's a different outlet, and that can transfer into hats and t-shirts and everything that has to do with the band. So in a way or other, she's already kind of doing it, except maybe not like focusing on it, because she's focused more on her production and thinking about doing maybe gallery shows or collaborating in different ways, or partnering with other artists as well. It's something that she does. So I think it goes along the lines of what you were asking in a way.
Wow. Thank you both for those answering those questions, and I'll give up the mic because I don't want to. That was a strange story, Manuela, but I appreciated it. I don't want to get canceled here, so I'm going to give up the mic.
You won't be canceled, Craig.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for the question. I think that brings a lot to the conversation too. And if no one else has questions, then we would like to say thank you to Agustina and Maya. It has been wonderful talking to you both and learning more about your works. We're so excited to have you on board of the Alpha platform. Very grateful for your collaboration, and we can't wait to do more things together.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the space. We're really grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll see you guys next week, I guess.